We'll begin with Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimiraandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। The 18th chapter. So 18th chapter is the longest chapter in Bhagavad Gita. It is titled The Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. It is in a way summarizes the entire Bhagavad Gita that was covered in the first 17 chapters. Second chapter is the second largest. 18th is the largest. Just like, if you look at any research paper, there will be introduction or abstract in the beginning, and towards the end there is a conclusion. Abstract refers to the high level idea of what are the ideas covered in the paper, and then it's like a proposal, and towards the end you have actual conclusive results based on all that is described in the paper, right? So similarly, this is the conclusion part. Just like abstract and conclusion, second chapter gives the overview of entire Gita. 18th chapter concludes the most important concepts again, revisiting all the key concepts. So naturally it is titled The Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. So let's see at a high level what are the sections in this chapter. So I'm using a presentation, PowerPoint presentation by Amritanand Prabhu. So it has, as you can see, there are 78 verses, 3, 6, 9, 11 sections. So the first section, which is spanning verses 1 to 12, which will cover most of it, up to at least 8 to 9 verses will cover today. So this is about Karma Yoga. Acting with detachment is true renunciation and brings freedom from reaction. So Krishna would revisit Karma Yoga and how by acting in detachment, one can actually achieve freedom from reaction. So that is the concept, and then the philosophy behind is explained in the second section. The conclusion of Sankhya and Vedanta: actions directed by the Supersoul brings freedom from reaction. So it's not just about acting with detachment. If that action is actually directed by the Supersoul within, that will bring freedom from reaction. So it's the philosophy behind the first section. And then actually action is motivated by modes of nature. So that is covered in the third section. So in a way, all of this is related to Karma Yoga up to section D. So worshipping the Lord through, so this is the modes of nature is covered in many chapters, including the last chapter, the divisions of faith. And then this is the Jnana part of it. So worshipping the Lord through one's occupational work is true renunciation and brings freedom from reactions. It's not that one has to give up action. but in fact he has to use whatever he is doing as a service to God. Right? That is how you worship Lord. So that will bring from, this is more like Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga culminates in Bhakti Yoga. In fact, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, everything culminates in Bhakti Yoga. So this is Karma Yoga to Bhakti Yoga, this path. Right? This whole section is how Karma Yoga in its perfection actually morphs into Bhakti Yoga. Now the next section is how Jnana Yoga morphs into Bhakti Yoga and at its perfection. Right? Then working in pure devotion service with Jnana and propensity to using all your propensity to work in the service of God, then you can actually achieve the perfection in work in pure devotion service. And then surrender to super soul. And then most confidential knowledge of all, become a pure devotee. This is the most important section for a practitioner of devotion service in the entire Bhagavad Gita. So we'll cover that. So Krishna gives this highest wisdom. Sarva dharman parichajya, manmana bhav mad bhakto, all those verses will come here again. And then the importance of preaching Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna concludes by saying here that there is no one more dear to me than one who actually shares this knowledge with others in this world. That is this. And towards the end, Krishna asks again, hey Arjuna, are your doubts dispelled? Are you now fixed in your resolve to do your action, which is to fight? Arjuna says, yes, I am. Now I am very clear. Nastamoho smritir labdva. I got my memory back. My illusion is dispelled. So this is the conclusion anybody who reads Bhagavad Gita should get to. Because if you get to a different conclusion, then you somehow miss the message of Gita. So one should come to the same conclusion as Arjuna has come to. So Karishye Vachanam Tava, that's his conclusion. And which means whatever you said, Krishna, I'm going to follow as it is. And then Sanjaya predicts towards the end that wherever there is Arjuna, wherever there is Krishna, there is going to be opulence, victory, extraordinary power. So in a way, he hints that Dhritarashtra, don't expect your sons to win this war. It is just by what we have heard in the last 2 hours, that is a span of time in which Bhagavad Gita was actually spoken. Just by hearing all of that, I'm very clear that Pandavas are going to be victorious in this war. And then, so that's the end of Bhagavad Gita. So we'll go into the verses. So you can repeat after me. Arjuna Uvacha. You can unmute yourself and repeat after me. Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditum.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditum.
Chagasya cha Hrishikesha.
Chagasya cha Hrishikesha.
Pritakkeshi Nishudana.
Pratakkeshi Nishudana.
Anyone want to repeat?
Yeah, I can do. Can I go?
Yes, bro.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Yeah, Arjuna Uvacha. You go ahead. Next.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditam.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditam.
Tyagasya cha hrishikesa
Chagasya cha Hrishikesha
pritakeshi nishudana.
Pritakeshi Nishudana. Yeah. Please read the translation.
Okay. Arjuna said, O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, sannyasa. O killer of the Kesi demon, master of the senses.
So Arjuna is asking two questions in this verse. The purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and then of renounced order, sannyasa. Sannyasasya Mahabahu is an address to Krishna. Tattvam ichchami veditam tyagasya hrishikesha. Sannyasa and tyaga. What is the purpose of tyaga and what is the purpose of sannyasa? First of all, what is the meaning of them? And then what is the difference between the two? Because personally, he is not a sannyasi. So he want to know what he can practice, the purpose of renunciation, tyaga. So Krishna is addressed as killer of Kesi demon, right? Kesi Nisudhana, right? Just like he killed the demon Kesi, Arjuna is asking Krishna to kill the demon of doubt in his mind, right? He is also Hrishikesha, master of the senses. So, yeah, so Prabhupada actually summarizes the entire Bhagavad Gita section wise, how the first 6 chapters, right? First 6 chapters cover the Karma Yoga, right? How karma leads to bhakti, and then the next section, which is primarily focused on Bhakti Yoga part, right? So devotion service, chapter 7 to 12, and then the jnana, how jnana leads to bhakti towards the end, right? So that is explained. Yeah. So Prabhu, can you read? Yeah, the highlighted. You can read. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Two words used in this verse to address the Supreme Lord, Hrishikesha and Kesi Nisudana, are significant. Hrishikesha is Krishna, the master of all senses, who can always help us attain mental serenity. Arjuna requests him to summarize everything in such a way that he can remain equipoised. Yet he has some doubts, and doubts are always compared to demons. He therefore addresses Krishna as Kesi Nisudana. Kesi was a most formidable demon who was killed by the Lord. And now Arjuna is expecting Krishna to kill the demon of doubt.
Yeah. So clear, right? So any questions on this? It's just a question, so we'll continue to the next one. Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri
Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Vacha.
Kamyanam karmanam yasam.
Kamyanam karmanamnyasam
Sannyasam kavayo vidhu.
Sannyasam kavayo vidu
Sarva karma phalatyagam.
Sarvakarma tyagam
Prahustyagam vichakshana.
Rahustyagam vichakshana.
Now Krishna is responding to Arjuna's question about the difference between sannyasa and tyaga, right? So please read the translation.
Oh, can I do?
Yes. Yeah. Continue.
Or someone. I'm okay either way. Okay.
Yeah.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned man call the renounced order of life, sannyasa. And giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation.
So Krishna is expressing in third person opinion. He's not expressing as this is my answer. What great learned man. right? So, or speaking about this topic, right? Giving up of activities that are based on material desire. Kamyavan karmanam nyasam. Nyasam means give up. Kamyavan means based on desire. Karmana means activities. Activities based on kama or fulfillment of material desire. I want to achieve a child, right? So then there is a particular sacrifice called Putra Kameshti Yajna. So there are two types of karma. One is Nitya karma, second is Kamya karma. Nitya karma means activities that a person is expected to do in the particular order of life. For example, Brahmanas are expected to perform Gayatri every single day. Doesn't matter, whether they're sick or not, they have to perform Gayatri. Yeah, so that is called Nitya karma. Kamya karma means besides Nitya karmas, there are also activities that everybody does, prescribed duties, right? So those activities could be based on desire, right? So one who gives up those kamya karma, that is the definition of renounced order of life. Sannyasa means one who gives up kamya karma, activities based on material desire to fulfill certain desires, to enjoy, right, that he wanted to enjoy. So giving up that is called sannyasa. The other thing is giving up the results of activities. You may perform various activities, but it is not meant for your desire. It's not meant to fulfill your desire, but it is, either done for the satisfaction of God or completely detachedly done, right? As a duty, as a matter of duty. So that is called tyaga, right? Any questions on this? The definition, sannyasa and tyaga, is that clear? Giving up results of activities, giving up not the activities. You may still perform activities, but you're not attached to the results. That is tyaga, right? We need actually the spirit of renunciation. The spirit of renunciation is more important than the act of renunciation. The act of renunciation means giving. So one is you can act and not be detached to the fruits. Second is you give up the activity in itself. If you give up the activity that are primarily only kamyava, means based on material desire, that's called sannyasa. You don't perform activity itself because you have nothing to fulfill. You don't even want to act. Or for example, you don't want even, anything, like a home or anything. So you don't even perform any activity. So that is sannyas, right? Specifically that are based on material desire. You may perform various other activities to build a temple or to teach a class, to write a book. Those are all different. But activities but based on material desire that you give up, that's called sannyasa. You may perform all kinds of activities in this world. You may go to office, you may do everything, but you are not attached to the results. Results may sometimes come in your favor, sometimes may not come in your favor. You are equipoised in all situations. That is tyaga. So if I ask you, what is practical for all of us in this, sannyasa or tyaga?
Tyaga.
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 Yeah. So so this is something we can aspire to practice. So yeah, can you read now, Prabhu? This purport?
Yes. The performance of activities or results has to be given up. This is the instruction of Bhagavad Gita. But activities leading to advanced spiritual knowledge are not to be given up. This will be made clear in the next verses. In the Vedic literature, there are many prescriptions of methods for performing sacrifice for some particular purpose. There are certain sacrifices to perform to attain a good son or to attain elevation to the higher planets. But sacrifices prompted by desires should be stopped. However, sacrifice for the purification of one's heart or for advancement in the spiritual science should not be given up.
Yeah. So sacrifices prompted by desire should be stopped. Means this is what Vedas mostly have, right? To fulfill certain desires. So don't try outside Vedic spectrum, just try within the Vedic spectrum. That was the idea, that everything was again part of Vedic scriptures itself. But those who are advanced actually do not go after fulfilling material desires, even within the Vedic spectrum. So the ideal way of working is to actually work for purification of heart, right? So if one performs his work for the satisfaction of Supreme Lord, then it leads to advancement in spiritual life. Why one should give up, acting for fulfilling one's desires? If I ask you, anyone want to answer? Why should one not, fulfill, or perform activities to get a good son or go to higher planets?
Because it's temporary. The happiness is temporary.
So even though you go to higher planets, again you will have to come back. So because these results are temporary, there is no use of such results, right? So it's not ultimately beneficial to the soul, right? We are an eternal entity. Any achievement on the material plane is not going to fully satisfy the soul. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the third one. Tyajyam dosha vadichyake
Tyajyam dosha vaditike
karma prahur manishina
karma prahur manishna
yajna dana tapa karma
yajna dana tapa karma
natyajyam iti chapare.
natyajyam iti chapare.
Yeah, please read.
Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty. Yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned.
So again, Lord is giving the opinion of others here. So the idea is, Lord, he's the Lord of religion. He's the highest epitome of perfection. He can declare what he wants to say. It is a sign of culture to respect others' opinions also, right? So Lord is actually showing that, so one may not have the ideal opinion in every case, right? So for example, sometimes we see even in the religious circle, people have conflicts of opinion, right? One may say one thing, the other person may say other things. And sometimes the opinions could be opposite of what we believe as the truth or what we think as right. Irrespective of that, the idea is one should respect others' opinion. We may not agree to it. As you can see in the next verse, hey, Arjuna, this is my, my answer to this is, he's going to speak about that in the next verse. But here he's, just openly telling these are the popular opinions in the world right now. Some learned men declared that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty, right? All activities, especially fruitive activities, should be completely given up as faulty. Yet other sages maintain the acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. So both opinions are prevalent in the world. Is not disrespecting, is just speaking about the current situation in the world. So this is how, this is a lesson for us. Like when we meet people of other religion or we can still be respectful in our way of expression, our opinions or our understanding, right? So that's part of culture, right? Yeah, please read.
There are many activities in the Vedic literature which are subjects of contention. For instance, it is said that an animal can be killed in a sacrifice. Yet some maintain that animal killing is completely abominable. Although animal killing in a sacrifice is recommended in the Vedic literature, the animal is not considered to be killed. The sacrifice is to give a new life to the animal. Sometimes the animal is given a new animal life after being killed in the sacrifice, and sometimes the animal is promoted immediately to the human form of life. But there are different opinions among the sages. Some say that animal killing should always be avoided, and others say that for a specific sacrifice it is good. All these different opinions on sacrificial activity are now being clarified by the Lord himself.
Yeah. So now Lord would clarify, what he wanted to say in this topic, right? Should one give up completely, or should, these activities of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned? What is Lord's take? Nischayam shृणु me tatra
Nischayam shृणु me tatra
tyage bharata sattama
tyage bharata sattama
tyago hi purusha vyagra
tyago hi purusha vyagra
vidha samprakirtita.
trivida
Nischayam shrunumek tatra. Nischayam means now here for certainty, my opinion on this, right? So on the matter of tyage bharata sattama, means in the matter of renunciation. Again, you can see here Bharata Sattama, oh best of Bharatas, an address to Arjuna, right? Even though Arjuna is a student, doesn't mean Krishna treats him like okay, he's a student, I don't mind addressing him with respect, or so that's again show of culture here. Again, we'll see other words like Purusha Vyagraha, Tyago hi Purusha Vyagraha, Trividha Samprakirtita. Yeah. Now again, Arjuna is addressed at Purusha Vyagraha, O tiger among human beings. Tiger is a ferocious animal and considered the best of all the animals. He's also like a king. So Arjuna is also addressed because he's also one of the best among men. Right? So, so Lord is saying in the scriptures, again, he wants to abide by the scriptures. He says, Trividha Samprakirtita, means there are three kinds of renunciation. Right? It's of three kinds. Renunciation is of three kinds. Again, going back to how divisions of faith, 17th chapter was, describing various aspects in mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. Lord would describe renunciation also in the three modes. Yeah, please read the translation.
O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds.
So Lord has this, you can call it a model of judging things. He, want to put in a scientific way, all the concepts he teaches. So you want to put this concept of renunciation again in the same model that he was describing other concepts in the last chapter. Right? So a good teacher always tries to give a model so that the student can clearly connect to the concepts. So again, Lord is following same model here.
Although there are differences of opinion about renunciation, here the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, gives his judgment, which should be taken as final. After all, the Vedas are different laws given by the Lord. Here, the Lord is personally present, and his word should be taken as final. The Lord says that the process of renunciation should be considered in terms of the modes of material nature in which it is performed.
So the framework, mental model or framework. Again, let's see what Lord says about the three modes or three kinds of renunciation. Yajnadana tapah karma
Yajnadana tapa karma
natyajyam karyameva tat
natyajyam karyam tat
yajnodanam tapaschaiva
yajnadam tapaschaiva
pavanani manishinam. Yajna, dana, tapah, karma, right? The three acts of sacrifice, acts of charity, and tapaha is penance, acts of penance. Natchajam means never to be given up. Natchajam karyameva tat, right? Should never ever be given up. Why it should not be given up? Yajnadanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. Because it actually, pavanani manishina means it purifies even the greatest souls. Manishinam is the best of the souls. So these activities should not be given up. But it has to be performed. How? How do you think Lord would say? Yajna, dana, tapa should not be given up, but it has to be performed in, any guesses? In the mode of?
a mode of goodness.
Yeah. So any activity should be done in the right mode. Then it will achieve its perfection. Yeah. In fact, as devotees, when we go above the mode of goodness, right? So if everything is done for the satisfaction of Krishna, then what is the mode it is called?
Akarma.
Yeah, it akarma, as it is akarma. We call it as pure goodness, right? So goodness is still, why do we call bhakti as above the three modes? Any guess?
Prabhu, can you repeat the question?
Why is bhakti called above the three gunas?
About the three modes of nature, you mean?
Yeah. Why bhakti is considered above the three modes? Just a guess. You don't need to think too much.
Because that's at the highest level of devotion. That is the highest. That is what a jiva is supposed to do.
Yeah.
That is his. Yeah.
So that is because it is. So either mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. All of these actually binding to us, right? If one performs an action in mode of goodness, what happens to him? He gets punya karma. He gets good karma, right? For example, you perform putra kameshti yajna or any other sacrifice, you get good credits into your karmic account. Mode of passion and ignorance, those will either get neutral or going to give you negative karma. So all of these actually acting in mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, all of them actually bind you to the material world. You may go to higher planets if you act in the mode of goodness. But if you act, so everything, any action you perform will become mode of pure goodness if it is done for the satisfaction of Lord, right? Anything you bring Krishna into picture, then it becomes mode of pure goodness. Very simple, right? So it should not be given up. The sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be given up because it purifies even the great souls. But ideally, it should be performed. The basic premise is should be done without any attachment for the results, for one's own satisfaction. but ideally should be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna. Then if you act with detachment, you're freed from karma. But if you act with devotion, you develop love for God, right? So devotees actually would act above the three modes, because they have they have the satisfaction of God in mind, right? Or the happiness or the pleasure of Lord in mind in all their activities.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I understood this right. So if anyone is performing Putra Kamishti Yagya, so his intention, their intention is to have a son, and they're performing that, but they're offering that fire sacrifice to the Lord, then does it nullify the sakarma they're earning, or how does it work?
So it depends on the intent. If the whole purpose of the yajna is just to get a son, irrespective of any motivation to please Lord, that is still in the mode of goodness only. It's not in the mode of devotion service or transcendental goodness or pure goodness, right? So it will incur good karma, right? And by which one may get the result of a good son, or right? So even though there is a sacrifice involved in getting the son, still it's not liberating, it is still binding.
Oh,
But if suppose one wants to, for example, in the case of gopis, right? So they were performing worship of Katyayani, but for what? To achieve, to actually, become the wife of Krishna, right? So that is a pure desire, and that is on a transcendental relation with Krishna. Or one may construct a temple. For what? To worship the Lord, right? To one's heart's desire. So again, that is transcendental. So one performs various things, but if the desire is to please the Lord, it is to give happiness to the Lord, then that is transcendental.
So if anyone is getting married, and the marriage rituals are to make sure that two people are getting married in order to serve the Lord together, or if when someone is having a sacrifice to have a son so that they can bring up a son to be the devotee of the Lord, a great devotee, so that all is all right. Is that right?
As long as you have the end in mind, that the end is to, is Krishna conscious, right? It is related to pleasing Lord, serving Lord, or for the satisfaction of the Lord, then yes, yeah. So all that matters is the intent of the activity, the consciousness in which it is performed.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Any other question? So Lord is saying, don't give up the activity, rather it should be performed in the right way. So Krishna will explain in the next verses what is the right way to act, right? So it must be performed because it can help purify even the great souls. Even the great sages perform for this reason, because it will purify them. Pavanani Manishina. Yeah, so Prabhupada explains about Vivaha Yajna. Yeah, you want to read, Prabhu?
Yeah. The yogis should perform acts for the advancement of human society. There are many purificatory processes for advancing a human being to spiritual life. The marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be one of these sacrifices. It is called Vivaha Yajna. Should a sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relations encourage the marriage ceremony? The Lord says here that any sacrifice which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. Vivaha Yajna, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. For most men, this Vivaha Yajna should be encouraged even by persons in the renounced order of life. Sannyasis should never associate with women, but that does not mean that one who is in the lower stages of life, a young man, should not accept a wife in the marriage ceremony. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord. Therefore, in the lower stages, they should not be given up. Similarly, charity is for the purification of heart. If charity is given to suitable persons, as described previously, it leads one to advanced spiritual life.
So all of these activities can be performed as long as it will help them get closer to Lord. So all prescribed activities are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord. So that is the main purpose. Yeah. So our life is, primarily should be driven by activities that will help purify our heart. Yeah. Etani apitu karmani
Etani apitu karmani
sangam tyaktva phalani cha
sangam tyaktva phalani cha
kartavyani iti me pardha
kartavyani me partha
nishchitam matamuttamam.
nishchitam matamuttamam.
Yeah, please read.
All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty. O son of Pritha, that is my final opinion.
Yeah. So sangham tyaktva phalani cha. Right? So sangham tyakta means act with renunciation for results. Right? Phalani means results. Should be done. So if you renounce the result, what is the goal? The goal is to be performing it as a duty. Kartavyani. It's your duty, so you perform. So yeah, so this is my final opinion. So one should act, but with a detachment as a matter of duty. This is the principle of Karma Yoga, right? Karmanyavadikarasya ma phaleshu kadachana. So the same verse, same principle is repeated here, right? Kartavyaniti me pardha sangam tyaktva phalanicha. Yeah, please read.
Although all sacrifices are purifying, one should not expect any result by such performances. In other words, all sacrifices which are meant for material advancement in life should be given up. But sacrifices that purify one's existence and elevate one to the spiritual plane should not be stopped. Everything that leads to Krishna consciousness must be encouraged. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also it is said that any activity which leads to devotion service to the Lord should be accepted. That is the highest criterion of religion. A devotee of the Lord should accept any kind of work, sacrifice or charity, which will help him in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord.
So we know in principle that one should be detached and work or as a matter of duty. However, the question is, are we there, right? I mean, each of us can introspect how far they are in that path. But the fact is, in the beginning stages, we are not there. To a good degree, we are not there. We are still attached to certain fruits. We have still a lot of expectations. So how do we get there, right? So how do we steadily get there? So what do you all think some practical things we can do to get to a place where we can perform, activities as a matter of duty? What things will help us get there?
Chanting, Prabhuji. Daily chanting.
The 9 processes of devotional service.
Yes.
Shravanam, Kirtanam, Padasevanam. It
Yes.
kind of purifies
Mhm.
slowly, and probably that will help us.
And and then some seva also, right? So seva will prepare our heart to slowly get there. Devotional service is a journey. It's not like, okay, you heard it, tomorrow you will be able to get there. So it takes a lot of purification of heart, primarily driven by chanting and performance of devotion service, like Mataji mentioned, right? Now with the bhakti and association, right? When you have some doubt, right? Should I take up this job or not, or should I buy this home or not, or should I buy this car or not? Think about whether it is going to help you or not. There is no right or wrong. It all based on your intent and consciousness. But idea is, the quick way to check is, am I going back, right? If you're not going back, you're on the track. So just make sure whatever you do, you're not too far distracted from Krishna consciousness. Your inspiration to chanting is not dying. Your inspiration to associate with devotees is not going away. And you have time to come to temple and perform something, whatever service you can in your ability. So as long as those things are intact and one steadily tries to improve those aspects of devotion service, then we are we are in the right direction. Yeah. So after years, one may think, oh, am I really advancing, right? As long as you have that the desire to chant, yeah, that is a basic testament, right? Are you feeling oh, this is so boring, or are you looking forward to your chanting, right? So that determines, are you making steady progress, right? So there is no measure, scale or height, weight. You cannot measure like that. It's a very subtle growth inside your heart. So you need to steadily work at it. It's a lifetime journey. So we make steady efforts towards it. The other part is to come together and hear together like this, right? So this should go on a regular basis, just like we eat every day to maintain for that day. But tomorrow again you have to again you need to take something to maintain your healthy body. So on a regular basis we need to perform spiritual duties like chanting and worship of the Lord every day in the morning, or offering bhoga. So these aspects will keep our spiritual life vibrant and steadily progressing. So one should prioritize that. Niyatasya tu sannyasa
Niyatasya tu sannyasa
karmano nopapadyate
Karmana nopapadyate
mohattasya parityagas
mahattasya
Mahattasya
parityas
tamasa parikirtita.
tamasa parikirtita.
Yeah, please read.
Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
Yeah. So karmano nopapadyate. So one should never give up one's prescribed duty. So all of us have prescribed duty, right? What are some of the prescribed duties?
Chanting?
Yeah, that is spiritual duty. As a father, you have certain duties. As a employee, you have certain duties.
Okay.
As a householder, you have to bring certain things to maintain the home. So all these are activities, prescribed duties. And all of these can be performed in Krishna consciousness. All of this. There is nothing that you can say, I cannot perform this in Krishna conscious spirit. The idea is, how do you do that in that spirit, right? In that consciousness. So that we can learn from others, or we can hear from others and learn. But anything can be done in Krishna conscious spirit, right? So that is more important. Yeah. So one should not give up one's prescribed duty, right? Mainly because of illusion. So illusion means, sometimes people use, in a wrong way, like Krishna consciousness as the reason for not going to office or things like that. Very setting very wrong example, and very like people will not at all be inspired by such ideas, right? So one should not do such things. Those are all actually giving up one's prescribed duties is actually illusion. And because of illusion, if one gives up, his renunciation, he gave up, but that renunciation is actually in the mode of ignorance. It's the lowest of all.
Prabhuji, I have a question over here.
Yes.
Like for example, like you mentioned about going to office, and like work is something which, at least for me in this Kali Yuga, get involved too much. So where do we draw that line, that we are working in office, or working not too much that I'm not able to chant or not able to go to the temple? So how do we balance that?
How do you balance your work, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, I mean, there are always times when you may need to stretch a little bit, but ideal is that you can set expectations with your leader or manager, right? That, so I can take this much and I will do according to my capacity. I can do this. If it means that you got average average performance rating, but you have your priorities very clear, and that priority is Krishna consciousness. So when we have right priorities in life, things will fall in place. So consciously we make a choice of what is my priority, right? Determine that and plan your life such that you can meet your priorities, right? For example, if you are given a pot and you are given some rocks, some pebbles, some sand, and some water, what will you fill that pot first with? The
Rocks.
Rocks heavy.
Yeah. And then you can fill with pebbles, and then you can fill with sand, because all of these can go one after the other. But if you fill everything with sand first, you can fill the rocks. So accordingly, so now that we understand Bhagavad Gita, we know very clearly Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and and this world is a temporary place. Now you know your priorities, right? You need to perform devotional service on a daily basis. You need to give your time for it. And you have certain duties to raise your children and family in Krishna consciousness. You may have to offer bhoga, or together perform Mangala Arati, or you need to spend certain time, like whether it is half an hour or 1 hour, whatever it is. So those time has to be given, and then after that, remaining time, now you plan for other things and give your best at your work. And you should be able to balance. If your mind is clear about the priorities, right, you will be able to achieve so then you can accordingly draw the line. Once you have the right priorities, then you can superimpose your duties by dividing. Okay, this is my time for this, this is my time for this. 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock means I will be out of work, no matter what, right? Sometimes you can stretch a little bit, but you be very clear. Okay, I need to draw a line here, right? So once we are clear on priorities and give our time, and in fact, as a devotee, one becomes very efficient, because devotees have so many things to do. They actually perform their activities in a very efficient way, and therefore they can actually achieve more results in less time, because in fact they have much more focused mind than outsiders. So when they sit down to write code, or to perform their work, they generally tend to be more efficient, and they can do the work that others do in longer time, because they have a lot more things distracted, so many fears and anxieties. Devotees work with a lot more like stable mind, I would say, and the priorities are very clear, right? I can see in my own life, I give like 6 hours or 7 hours work. That's it, and I'm very well doing my work. I mean, every case is different. So it depends, what work you are doing, what job you are in. If sometimes work becomes a hindrance to your duties, then you have to see what you can intelligently do so that you can go to a place where things are more favorable to your Krishna consciousness, right? So when you are in that meditative mood, to how you can give more time to Krishna, Krishna from within arranges situations such that you can actually tune yourself more towards Krishna consciousness, right? It works both ways. So we have to also we have to be first conscious of our priorities and what things favor us. If you put down on paper, right, these kind of things, it is very easy to achieve. Actually, it's not very difficult to but one has to introspect. One has to plan his work life. All these things will become much more clear, much more easy for a devotee than others, mainly because of his background and right prioritization. For others, no, there is no priority. So their life is haphazard. Sometimes they will be overworking, and sometimes when they don't get promotion, they get frustrated. They don't work at all. So that kind of fickleness is not there, because our priority is clear, right? So with a stable mind, we can think much far ahead. You can form a vision for your life. After 50 years, I will do this. My 50 to 60, I will study this, and I'll do, because our needs are limited, our desires are limited. This world is a very easy place to live for devotee, right? Because their expectations are limited. Everything is abundance for them. Because of their abundance mindset, Krishna consciousness gives us abundance mindset. There is no lack of I don't have this, I don't have that kind of attitude in their life. So we are very fortunate to have such knowledge and wisdom. Should be grateful, and when we use our intelligence in the right way, we'll get the ideas, and through our prayers we can improve our situation, right? So, and sometimes it's difficult to think for yourself, you can take help of another devotee, any other devotees who have a lot more experience in Krishna consciousness. They can help you mold your life. It's not a difficult thing. We had so many examples in the past. So yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, a quick, just slightly different question. So, are there certain professions which a devotee should, I'm sorry, avoid? Of course, besides the animal killing and everything or selling. But if, let's say, students, they need a side job, so they work at a supermarket or something. There is meat there, right? So indirectly, they are selling it. Or some major professions. Are there any professions that should be avoided, like just which might hinder the growth in devotional?
Yeah, mainly the ones that that are related to the 4 regulative principles, that we don't become part of any of those, like selling meat or all those things. Again, like you said, then you can go to the student can go to Indian store where there is no such thing. Yeah, it's very, yeah, depends on each scenario. I don't have a list of things, but definitely one can find based on what is available and what matches the most to the criteria we have set for.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Because teaching, let's say as a teacher, sometimes they have to teach, depends where they're teaching and what subject they're teaching, and sometimes that may not relate, or that may not be okay with their values, what they're following. So still they have to teach, it's a part of their job. So, no such kind of dilemma.
That's true. Yeah. But, sometimes you may teach, but you can also give Krishna conscious perspective, right? Any subject you can take. Yeah. So, like, as long as it is not about, breaking 4 regulative principles, then, like, even like, the theories like Big Bang theory, you can also explain Krishna conscious perspective, right? While you are explaining Big Bang theory, you can also give, hey, this is the current understanding of science, and this is the understanding in scripture. Just like when we speak anything as an observer, right? You're not like forcing any knowledge on anyone, saying that this is the way it is, right? As an observer, you studied this thing, and you're explaining what is there in this book as this is what is told in this. But the scriptures say like this. Bhagavatam 5th canto talks about the universe creation in this way. You can present like that. So yeah, so teaching profession is in fact the most convenient profession for devotees. Software engineer is also fine, pretty much, yeah, shouldn't be at all conflicting. A lot of professions devotees can do. The main thing is they should have the time for Krishna consciousness, to associate, to attend festivals in the temple and perform some services, chant attentively. These aspects should be there. As long as they are there, yeah, so mostly it should be fine.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah, please read, Prabhu.
Yeah, work for material satisfaction must be given up. But activities which promote one to spiritual activity, like cooking for the Supreme Lord and offering the food to the Lord and then accepting the food, are recommended. It is said that a person in the renounced order of life should not cook for himself. Cooking for oneself is prohibited, but cooking for the Supreme Lord is not prohibited. Similarly, a sannyasi may perform a marriage ceremony to help his disciple in the advancement of Krishna consciousness. If one renounces such activities, it is to be understood that he is acting in the mode of darkness.
See, Prabhupada made so many things a lot more practical. Until then, in the name of spirituality, people give up activities. If you read any other books on practicing spiritual life, things are not as clear and as practical as what Prabhupada has given. So there is no need to renounce cooking, for example, right? Or even for a sannyasi, there is no need to give up, doing a marriage ceremony, because the whole idea is the intent is the main aspect in Krishna consciousness. It's not the act, it's the intent of the act. So Prabhupada would perform marriage ceremony for some of his American disciples. The idea is they will advance in Krishna consciousness through their activity. They get the blessings of their guru. So it is not forbidden. It is also actually Krishna conscious sacrifice. So Vivaha Yajna. So what the work should not be given up, right? So if work is given up, prescribed duties are given up out of illusion. Illusion means misunderstanding of the idea of renunciation. Then it is actually in the mode of ignorance. So that should be given up. So let's read this. Dukkham iti eva yat karma.
Dukkham iti eva yat karma.
Klesha bhayat chajet.
Kaya kalesha bhayat
Sakritva rajasam tyagam.
sakritva rajasam
Tyaga phalam labhet.
tyaga phalam labhet.
Yeah, please read.
Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation.
If one gives up because there is discomfort in the activity or out of fear, those are all renunciation, but in the mode of passion. Yeah, which should be. Again, that will not elevate. Yeah, please read.
One who is in Krishna consciousness should not give up earning money out of fear that he is performing fruitive activities. If by working one can engage his money in Krishna consciousness, or if by rising early in the morning one can advance his transcendental Krishna consciousness, one should not desist out of fear or because such activities are considered troublesome. Such renunciation is in the mode of passion. The result of passionate work is always miserable. If a person renounces work in that spirit, he never gets the result of renunciation.
So one should not give up out of fear or discomfort, right? So one should continue performing his duties. So now we discussed about acting in the mode of, sacrifice or giving up an activity in the mode of illusion or ignorance and passion. Now this is mode of goodness. Karyam iti eva yat karma
Karyam iti eva yat karma
yatam kriyate arjuna
niyatam kriyate arjuna
sangam tyaktva phalam
sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva
satyagaha satviko mata.
satyaga satviko mata.
Yeah, please read.
Yeah, oh Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material associations and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness.
Performing as a duty and without attachment to the fruit. Sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva. There is no attachment to the fruit. So that kind of renunciation, tyaga satviko mataha, is mode of goodness. Doing as a duty, no attachment. Those keywords you should remember. Please read.
Prescribed duties must be performed with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna. And when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally.
So it's not about what will I get, what will I get, what will I get. Suppose somebody is reading for an exam and he's always worried, oh, will I pass, will I pass? Or will I get a tough question today? Will I forget the answer? If there is too much thinking about what will happen, can they write the exam peacefully and get the best result for what they studied? No, right? So that is attachment. When somebody is attached, there is so much anxiety, there is so much fear, there is so much doubt, and a part of your energy, in the mind, right, is preoccupied with the anxieties, fear, attachment for the result of the work. A devotee is bindas, he is not at all worried. I am doing the service of Krishna. I do my best. Whatever I get is not in my hand. It's in Krishna's hand. So I don't bother about the result. That is Krishna's department. My department is what is within my hands, right? So I do my best. So this is the basic principle of working, in the material world, which is, aligns with the mode of goodness. Be detached, right? Do it as a duty without minding, and you will get failures. You will not have things come as you wish. There will be a good percentage of things that will happen that way. So do not be worried. Even with Krishna being on the side of Pandavas, there are days on which Pandavas were having a weaker hand and Kauravas were having upper hand in the war, right? There are battles that they have lost. They have lost sometimes, Abhimanyu was killed, and there are other days where they had lost battles in the war. But overall, they were victorious, right? So in our day-to-day life also, sometimes we may get results as we wish, sometimes we may not get. We should not be too much distracted. That's not that's not our botheration. It is Krishna's botheration. We do our best, right? We keep trying to do our best, and whatever is to come, that is will be determined by Krishna. And we don't work out in our mind about the result too much, right? And over time, things will take care themselves as long as you're sincere and your priorities are clear, right?
Yeah.
So that is this verse, right? So don't worry too much, just work, give your best, and see that you're working for Krishna. You're not working for anybody in this world, right? Simple principles, and can be happy in your life and achieve the best you can. So we'll end the class today. Any questions on what we discussed so far?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Just regarding this question of this particular shloka we just discussed, doing something for this only because it's a matter of duty, because it ought to be done. How does that inculcate love for Krishna? If you're doing it just because it's part of regulations, and your heart is really not in it, and it can simple like chanting, we do it because it's prescribed, but we're not chanting with authenticity.
Correct.
How does that help with that?
Very good question. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks at different levels. Okay. Not every verse is talking about the highest principle. So this section, the whole section up to 12th verse, is focused on how to perform at the level of Karma Yoga. And Karma Yoga is not the highest. So this is working in Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga will achieve its perfection, when it is, performed as a sacrifice, as for the pleasure of Krishna. This verse is not Bhakti Yoga verse. This is only a Karma Yoga verse. So that's why the principle of Karma Yoga is mentioned, not Bhakti Yoga. So even in the 3rd chapter also, there are many verses that do not directly point to the highest goal, right? So for a Bhakti Yogi, it may appear like inferior principle, but this is like a foundational principle on which, so Bhakti can be performed on top of this only. It cannot be, so you cannot say I am a Bhakti Yogi, but you still have attachment to work, right? So one has to come to a base level first, and from there one gets to the higher level. And one, by practicing at a higher level, may come to the base level and higher also. That is also fine. But the principle, there are certain verses that, only talk about certain level. So this is such verse. This is not the highest. For a devotee, there is a higher principle. Yes.
Prabhuji, sometimes in the mode of doing one's duty, for example, some office work, one may get a little attached to doing it in a perfect way, and one may have our own notions of I want to give my best in this action. It's a material, even though it's a material duty, but I need to do it perfectly, and may get lost in that. And so that drive to do something in the most perfect way sometimes may keep us very attached to it, and then we cannot, it's not, we are doing it for as a sense of duty, but we are also now putting some part of ourselves in it, like it's our quest for perfection. How do we balance that?
Yeah, good question. So perfection is not an intention. Perfection is one's way of working. If somebody is, looking for that kind of perfection, by the way, I am also somewhat inclined that way. In whatever I do, I give my best, and I look for perfection in that work. It's not necessarily non-Krishna conscious, even though you may spend additional time to get there. But it also represents the commitment of the individual to achieving, the best possible result, right, in the given work. Perfection is a quality of work. It doesn't mean like one need to be perfect in everything. But it's just the quality of mindset. It's not about intentions or anything else. That's my understanding. So one can go after that, but as long as it's not, again, taking too much of your energy from acting in a Krishna conscious way, that is fine. Arjuna was a perfect archer. Like, he perfected his art, and he's the best in the entire world at that time. And he would sometimes practice all through the night. But his intent is, always to abide by what Krishna taught, and to always, be in Krishna conscious spirit. But he was a perfectionist also. So it's not like completely wrong. It depends case by case. Every case is very different. We have to see, individually. But perfection is an attitude, in my opinion. It's not like either being too attached or not.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And one last question was about the earlier verse, which was about uh, sacrifice and penance in the right mode. If our some of our skills that we have acquired over maybe previous births or something make us skilled in a particular activity that may not be the best thing. For example, engaging in say stocks or the kind of speculative kind of activity. And if we, this is something I have asked before also. If we think about such activities as, let me do it because I have the skill for it, and then whatever money I get from it, I'll donate it to the temple or donate it to some Krishna conscious acts of charity. Would that be okay?
Yeah, as long as you are not distracted from the principal activities, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. So as long as, so there are devotees who are experts in that, and Anand Vrindavan Prabhu and many others. They guided others, and they actually ended up quickly getting out of this job cycle, and completely dedicate their life to Krishna. See, the idea is, Anand Vrindavan Prabhu, he was an expert analyst in stocks, but after a certain age, he gave up completely, because, okay, I'm satisfied with what I have, and I have also helped others, and now I'm going to completely focus on Krishna consciousness. So the purpose should be very clear, right? And the whole process should not take away your focus on Krishna consciousness. You should continue to do your duties, chanting sincerely, waking up early. Yeah. So as long as that is there, and you're able to make good progress in your spiritual life, yeah, I don't see it wrong, because I have seen people do that way.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
It has to be done carefully. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Any other? Okay, so we can end the call for today. Thank you all very much. By the way, if you have any feedback on the speed or anything, let me know, because I know Prabhu covers like 4 or 5 verses. I'm covering like 8, 9 verses. Is the speed okay with everyone, or do you want to ask me to slow down a little bit? Let me know.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
This is good. Yeah, this is good, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
All very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.